You have a gift of communication. And you shouldn't be sitting behind a desk all day, not interacting with other people. Get in your area of gifting. Some of you are great with your hands. You can build furniture. You can make cabinets. It's like that's second nature to you. That's your strength zone. That's the way God has wired you. It's all a part of your divine destiny. And we need to ask ourselves, what am I good at naturally? What do I do well? We have to identify our strengths and then identify our weaknesses. And the scripture says to give yourself to your gifts. In other words, don't spend all your time trying to improve your weaknesses. Don't waste valuable days pursuing things that are outside your main gifting. Focus on your strengths. Spend time improving the areas that you're already good at. I heard somebody say, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, the most we can ever improve is 2 or 3 numbers. And for instance, I may have a desire to sing, but I can tell you my singing ability would only rate about a 2. Don't laugh, yours is not any better. But even if I spent years taking voice lessons and having people train me, I would still probably only be able to bring that up to a 4, maybe a 5. But think about it. 5 is average. 5 is just mediocre. If you'll take something that you're already above average in right now, something that you're already naturally good at, maybe in sales, in building, in teaching, you're already a 6 or a 7. If you'll put your time and energy focused on developing that skill, you'll look up one day and you'll be a 8, a 9, who knows, maybe even a 10. Focus on your strengths, the things that you're already good at. That's what God has wired into you. But too often, we see somebody doing something and we think, I want to do that. That looks more exciting. That seems more impressive. We make the mistake of getting out of our strength zone. But you have to stay in your area of gifting and don't fall into the trap of comparing your success with someone else's. You're not running against them. They have their own race. They have their own set of skills. They have their own purpose. If you're going to compete against anyone, compete against your own inner voice. That voice down in your spirit that tells you who you are and what you were created to be. When you get complacent, that's the voice that tells you, come on, press forward. God has more in store. But don't compete against other people. Run your own race and be the best that you can be. I think about on a football team, there are certain positions that require different talents. If you're a lineman that blocks the defense from trying to get the quarterback, you need to be big and heavy and strong. You don't have to necessarily be fast. You don't have to have good hands. You don't have to throw accurately. Size and strength is what's really important. But on the other hand, if you're a running back, it's a totally different set of requirements. You need speed, agility, quickness. You have to be able to dart here and there and try to outmaneuver your opponents. It's the same team, but different requirements. And the problem occurs when the lineman says, I'm not happy where I am. I never get to run the ball. People don't cheer for me like they cheer for the running back. I think I'm going to change positions. This is what many people do in life. They try to function outside of their natural gifting. They see somebody that's more successful or something that's more glamorous. And instead of running their race, being comfortable with who God made them to be, they compare themselves and they end up letting that frustrate them. But you have to stay in your strength zone. You're not going to be good at something that you are not equipped to do. And God will help you to become everything He's created you to be, but He will not help you to be something you were not created to be. And the Scripture tells us we have to accept the gift God has given us. It's easy to think, God, I want that gift. God, I want to be able to sing. God, I want to be in management. I want to be the running back. But if you'll quit comparing and take the pressure off of yourself, thinking that you have to have a certain position in order to feel good about who you are, if you'll quit doing that, you'll feel that weight lift off of you. Some of you are always in competition with a family member, with a friend, with a coworker. But you need to get free today. We're not supposed to be competing against anyone else. Run your own race. I heard somebody say, I would rather be a great sergeant than a poor general. We have to realize not everyone was equipped to be a general. Everyone can't be the leader. Everyone can't be the boss. But a lot of times, because of the pressure we put on ourselves and the need we feel to impress, we think, I've got to do what they're doing. I've got to be in that position so I'll be respected, so I'll feel important. But that need to impress is because we have our worth and value in what we do instead of who we are. You don't need to impress people in order to feel good about yourself. If you'll quit looking at others and just take what God has given you and be the best that you can be, then you can feel good about yourself. I think about my brother Paul. In 1999, when my father went to be with the Lord, Paul gave up his practice as a successful surgeon. He moved back home to help us here in the ministry. In the natural, he could have wanted to be in charge. After all, he's the older brother. He could have thought, I'm not going to go back home and serve my younger brother, especially if he's going to get up there and make jokes about me all the time. But Paul is comfortable in who God made him to be. He doesn't have to be up here in order to feel good about himself. We recognize our giftings are different. I know I enjoy spending most of the week preparing for the weekends. This is what I focus on. Down deep, I believe this is what I was born to do. On the other hand, Paul enjoys meeting with people one-on-one, getting into their lives, finding out how he can help. He's very relational. I'll call him some nights, hey, what are you doing? We're having friends over for dinner. Another night, what's going on? We're having the couples class over. Like 30 or 40 of them. Another time, he's at a friend's, counseling them that's struggling in their marriage. Paul likes getting into people's lives. And don't get me wrong, I love people, but I'm just the opposite. When I'm at home, I don't want any company. Listen, I love you, but do me a favor, do not come and visit me. What is that? God has wired us differently. Paul recognizes his gifting. He's not striving to be up here. He's not thinking, one day I'm going to feel good about myself when I'm in charge. Paul accepts the gifts God has given him. He has the attitude, I'd rather be a great sergeant functioning in my gifting than be just an average general. But there's this temptation today to compare our gifts. And when we do, so often we get out of our strength zone. We get into areas that are not our main gifting. So much better to do like Paul did and just recognize, these are the gifts God has given me, and I'm going to accept it. And at the same time, I'm not going to feel less than and inferior because I can't do what somebody else can do. I know sometimes I'll hear other ministers, and they can articulate things so well. They're these great orators, and they've got deep voices, and they can move the audience. I think to myself, I am so ordinary. I just get up here and talk in my Texas twang. Compared to them, if I allowed myself, I could feel inferior, insecure. But I've learned this simple principle. I'm not competing against them. I don't have to compare. All I've got to do is be the best me that I can be. The scripture says there in Proverbs 18:16, your gift will make room for you. If you will develop what God has given you, you will have opportunity. You will see favor. You will have doors open. Understand, staying in your gifting and developing your talents is a key to fulfilling your destiny. I know when my father went to be with the Lord, I made a decision at the very beginning that I was going to be who God made me to be. My father was raised Southern Baptist. He was 40 years older than I am, and our personality and styles weren't exactly the same. I'm kind of laid back and easygoing, and my father could be a little more fiery, a little more feisty. And at first I thought, maybe I should be like my dad. Everybody